We're gonna go down the tracker again, just like we did yesterday, but this time we're gonna do reverse jobs, also non-lit reverse. They're designed the same way, just without LEDs. And then if we have time, I'll get into a trimless job. First step again, just come to the tracker. You got reverse is always labeled in green right here. It's gonna be at the top of every single week above trimless, as you can see here. I would start with this very first one, but when I went in to look, there was no vector art available. So I'm just waiting on an email for that, which is one that I really wanted to show you guys because that's a push through job. But once it's available, then I'll be able to show you. So we'll just go down to the next white cell and just start our process. Step one of marking that cell in process and then opening up the shop drawing. Basically, everything is the same between frontlit and reverse. There's a few steps that you do not have to do in reverse. One main one is shadow correcting. We do not have to do any kind of shadow correcting since they don't light out the front. They just light out the back and the shadows are obsolete at that point. Same process again. We want to just skim over the shop drawing. I'll get the artwork in there once we're done going over the shop drawing. So to make sure everything here looks like it's set up correctly. Got our backs, which is 3/16 white. The only thing I'm going to put here is change up to the mill finish, which is our reverse returns. Standard white, that all looks good. All right, so we'll get the art now. So remember, the first thing we want to do is find the company name. Go back to Flexi, got assign group. And we want the DSW number, which is right here, 114332. The folder one, and we just want to bring in the art file that has the dimensions on it. 71 by 76. This one might be a little tricky, so I'm actually going to change this. It came in a little bit under than what the file was saying, so I'll just change that with 71 to get our height of 76. With the overall dimensions, with our dimension tool here, just make sure you hit the green check mark to actually set it, and we'll also pick a letter to put individual measurements on for QC, so when they're QCing the job before it gets packed, they can make sure that it's the right sign. Then I will name it. I'll just use the first three letters of the job name, PICOG, and I will copy this and put it into the shop drawing. Just hit these three dots and put image in selected cell and do the same thing in the ship window. All right, let's go back to the art. So some of this looks kind of thin, like these little logos and these little bars. So what I'm going to do is just do some measurements to make sure that these will be manufacturable as is. So take this measurement tool, the diagonal dimensional tool. All this one does is kind of let you measure any which way you need to instead of up or down or right and left. I'm just going to measure this stroke, which is at 1.63, which is more than enough. Our standard stroke, especially for reverse signs, is 1.35. You can get away with 1.25 as long as they don't have the larger pass-through holes, which are called wall busters. And they're just a much larger, almost an inch wide. And these little logos are actually bigger than I thought as well. So we are good to go. No, we don't have to do any kind of art adjustments. Just send to the customer. So now I can get rid of everything I don't need. Just from looking at it, it looks like we only have one layer here, which is very nice. All I'm doing is checking for layers. I'm just clicking once on the letter, then I hold shift and drag over it. And if nothing pops up, then that means there are no other layers. So I'll do Control A to select all, Control M to compound, because we always want to compound. And with reverses, even though they do not get trim cat, I'm still gonna do an outline of 0.125 to make sure that the letters are not too close together. It's just kind of a safety measure. So outline, it's already set to 0.125. You can enter twice, or you can hit the check mark. I'm gonna kind of zoom in a little more to get a better view. Make sure nothing is touching at all. Like that's pretty close, but it's gonna be fine. Once again, there's no trim cap, so this line won't actually even be there once they build this. And I do not see anything that's too close, so I can clear that outline. And like I was saying, normally our next step would be to do shadow correcting. Reverses do not need shadow correcting since they are lit out the back. So right away I can inline for my returns. And for reverses, the standard inline is 0.04. The only time that changes is if the returns are 063 returns, then your inline would be 0.063. It is very rare that we use 063 returns for reverse though. So it's going to be 0.04 99% of the time. Your inline, separate the inline, pull that away, and you can get rid of the original art. Zero this out by using Control 2 and then Control 4. Do ungroup, hit that twice, Control U twice, and then do Control J twice, which also uncompounds it. And doing it multiple times just ensures that when we enter our start endpoints, everything's broken up So we can do that on each letter. The next thing that's a little different from reverse than frontlit, when we're doing our start endpoints, reverse actually does it right on a corner, like here or here, wherever a corner meets, instead of me having to put a start endpoint right in the middle. That allows them to hide the seam a lot better. The only time I do need to add the start endpoint is when it's on a curved letter, like this O or this logo that has no corners. So just like the frontlets on these letters, you just want top, middle, left, center for this O insert, and that's just to mainly hide the seam from customers and their customers. So it's going to go through, find all the ones that do not have corners, which the only ones that are like that are this logo and the O. Next thing I'm going to do is just kind of make sure that it's nice and clean. It's not real jaggedy. That points like this that would normally be shadow corrected for a frontlet are actually coming to just one point rather than that squared off point. If we do leave those squared off points, the machine will not recognize it and it'll just skip right over, and it'll make that K look really funky when it's coming out of the machine. So you just want to make sure all these kind of points are actually to a point rather than a little squared off point, just like this A is, as you can see right. And again, I'm just using the corner tool. You just click on one side. It doesn't matter which side you start on, and just double click on the other, and then it'll bring it to that point. All right, so everything looks nice and clean. Reverses are a little bit more simple when it comes to art adjust, just because of the fewer steps that you have to take. Next thing I'm gonna do is copy over whatever duplicates I can. It looks like these are basically the same as this, as long as I flip them. So that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drag over these, compound them by using Control M, and I will copy that over, and then double click on it, which gives you these little arrows that allow you to rotate or flip. In this Design Central dialog box, it gives you the same option. You can rotate it left, rotate it right. You can mirror it horizontally, or you can mirror it vertically. So we're going to actually mirror horizontally, like I just did there. I'm going to compound these together and turn them green. And then while these are selected, I'm just going to hold Shift and select the ones that I want to keep. Hold Control and then 5, and it'll center justify it right on top of those. As you can see, they're definitely identical once they're mirrored, because you don't see any kind of overlaps or anything. The other ones I will copy over is this guy. I'm going to do basically the same thing and mirror it horizontally. Change that to green. And again, just click on the green and hold Shift, drag over the one you want to keep. Do Control 5, you'll center justify it, and you can get rid of the green part of it. And it looks like the only other letters, logos, that are duplicates would be these L's. The only difference with these is I'm going to have to rotate them a few times to get them to match up exactly. First thing I'll do is turn those green, and I want to center justify this L on there, which, as you can see, I'm going to have to rotate it quite a bit. Double click on that guy. If you just start rotating it, you can kind of see where you're at with it. I try to make these lines match up. As you can see, it's pretty close. Not close enough, so we'll just kind of do it again and zoom in a little bit more until I hit that basically right on. And once I get that, I will get rid of the green, and I'll do the same thing with this next double click. Gives you your arrows, just rotate, and I just try to eyeball the lines, make sure, try to get them right next to each other. Again, I didn't get it perfect on the first try, so we'll zoom in a little bit and kind of see how I got these lines lined up. I'll just drag over it again, do Control 5. It's still a little bit skewed, so we'll turn it a little bit more. Sometimes it's a little tedious, but all right, so we have all duplicates copied over. Everything is set. Start endpoints on curved letters are set. You can select all by doing Control A, then do Control M to compound. You always want to compound, and this will be the returns file. So in the art department, just like the frontlet, nothing changes there. Save it as a DXF and just name it the first 3 letters, PIC. And then we will outline for our faces, which is going to be the same tolerance. Just make sure you're outlining 0.04. Rather than inlining, right click and separate the outline. Pull that away and get rid of the returns. Zero out your art. We're doing Control 2 and Control 4. Hit Control U and then Control M just to make sure you are compounded again. Always hit Control F to go into fill mode to make sure you don't have any extra layers. Once again, if you had extra layers, all of it or just one of the letters would pop up white instead of having a fill in it. Everything looks good there, so we will export to the faces folder. Same thing, DXF, and just name it faces. So now I'm going to go back to the shop drawing. Most of the time, reverses will not have any vinyl or digital prints. Most of the time when they do have digital print, it's if it's like multi-color job where they want the face a different color than the returns, and we try our best to do any kind of two-tone paint. Makes it a lot easier on the paint department. So as you can see here, there's no vinyl, nothing. It's just going to get painted. Looks like they actually are wanting it painted yellow. So what I'm going to do with this art in here is keep it the same size and everything. I'm just going to turn it yellow in Flexi. So when it's in the shop and people are looking at the shop drawing, they don't get confused thinking it should be black, even though paint shows yellow. So hold on one second. So I'm going to do is drag over the art, make sure I don't have these measurements selected, and turn it to yellow just like that. Export it right over my OG file. Just update the shop drawing with the yellow. I'll also do it in the ship window because there's a good chance that they will ask the question if they have the right sign because they're looking at black instead of yellow. All right, so everything is nice and kosher. So again, back to this. We do not have any vinyl, no digital print, nothing like that. So I do not have to get any kind of footage or order a DP. So we are done with that step. The next step is now to clean it up in en-route so we can output it to the SBS machines. All right, here it is en-route. Go back to shop drawing, make sure we have the correct company sign group. So here. Go into the manufacturing files where we have our returns file in the art department folder. It's going to be the same exact cleanup that we did on frontlit. Nothing changes here. It's going to stay at 0.01. Just hit OK. Check your segments, which it does come down quite a bit. Do it one more time. And looks like it only came down once, so we are good to output this. First, output it over the original return file that we set up, and then also in the letter bending folder as returns. Then we just want to do the same exact thing to the faces, just like we did in the frontlit. Yes, what is your question, James?
I want to ask why it is necessary to do the counter counting step. If we doesn't do it, what will happen?
Which step?
Yeah, when it shows that counter counts are here, like it shows 263 and in that one.
You're talking about the faces?
No, the previous step you just have done.
In here?
Yeah, the counter counting.
You talking about like the footage, like for vinyl or whatever?
No, in Flexi, you have performed an action where it tells that in this particular artwork, there are, for example, 263 counter, and when you export it on other file, you checked here.
I'm not 100% getting what you're asking. Like when I'm exporting it, or?
No, not about the export. It's about the counter notes.
Josh, I think he's talking about the cleanup stuff, like you were trying to clean up.
Like in the next, this file? In here, right?
Yeah. Cleanup stuff. He's talking about the points.
Yes.
Oh, like the sharp points, like right here. Okay, so good question. So for reverses, again, it's kind of the same. Since they're not frontlit, these do not have to be rounded off like they would in a frontlit where it's lit out the front and it would be hanging over because they actually grind those ends off back in the reverse department. I got you now, James.
Okay.
Yeah, since it's just reverse lit, we don't have to worry about doing any kind of shadow correcting in the returns or the faces. That's one good thing about reverse. They're much quicker when it comes to the art adjust portion of it because there's at least 3 or 4 steps that you can basically skip compared to the frontlit.
But on frontlit, you have to done the shadow correcting.
Yes, sir. Good question, Jay. We will go do the cleanup again. I think I already did the returns. All right, so we're gonna do the same exact thing for faces, just like we did for frontlit yesterday. When it comes to cleanup, like I said, there's nothing that changes between frontlit and reverse. So just make sure you are selected, hit your cleanup tool, make sure you're on 0.01. As long as you're on 0.01, like when you start the day or right after you open en-route, it'll stay that way until you have to close it and reopen it. All right, so again, it kind of brought the segments down. We'll do it one more time. Brings it down just 3 there, which means we are good to go to export over the faces file. All right, and that is a standard reverse. So since we are done with that on the ArtAdjust portion, we will complete my column. And you can see here where it says vinyl digital print, there is no vinyl for any of these that we're about to do. So as for footage, it's just going to be 0. And then we'll just go on down to the next reverse. So hit that in process, open up shop drawing, and same thing. We're going to skim over the shop drawing, make sure everything looks like it's set up correctly. Got our 63 faces, polycarbonate white backs, 316. Only thing here is they're actually going to be painted. Almost 100% of all reverses will be painted. So instead of having standard here, we want to make sure we have custom, and you just want to make sure that it's showing mill finish reverse. And that it matches 3-inch here and 3-inch there. Black is what they're painting it. Everything else looks good to go. We're just going to set up the art. We got AJ Sign Company here. Go back into Flexi. and just do all the same steps over again. AJ Sign Company, get your job number 114322. Go into folder 1 so we can get the artwork. Here's another nice flexi file. Looks like everything's already set up basically for us here on this one. 253, which is what we got the measurements here saying, by 55.5. So I'm just actually going to keep those measurements.
Yes.
Only thing I'm going to do different a little bit is add some measurements on some of these letters for quality control. Since these letters are a different size, I'll do the same which just says O right here, since there's not really any true flat letters to do it on. It's like these measurements actually have a red stroke. They just look weird. Okay, there we go. All right, so here's our original art, OG art file. Save it in here, and it looks like new will be our name, NEWOG. We'll copy this into the shop drawing. Hit your 3 dots, put an image and select the cell, and same thing in the ship window. And for this one, we already looked at the paint. We know it's black, so I don't have to change any colors in the art like I did on the last one. I don't see any special notes, anything like that on how it needs to be designed, so it's going to be a straightforward reverse design. So I'm just going to select everything I do want to keep, click, and while I'm holding shift, drag over so I can deselect what I do not want. Rid of that. I do not need that right now. Here in a few steps, I'll show you what I'm going to do with that TM symbol. It's basically going to be the same that I did with the registration mark on one of the jobs yesterday. Once I get the faces set up, then I'll continue on with that part of it. So right now, I'm just making sure everything is ungrouped. Then I will select all and then compound it all. And it actually looks like, see how when I compounded it, deselected this? There's probably a mask on it, which there is. So when you try to compound something and it doesn't actually grab it, that means there's something masked on it, which was a big square, which I could not explain why they masked that. There's no reason for it. It's just a straight up black line is all it needs to be, but that is how you fix that. So now when we do Control M, everything connects. And we can do Control 2 and Control 4, zero out your artwork. And again, just like frontlit or like the last reverse did, we're still going to do the outline of 0.125 to make sure that none of the letters or anything is too close. First thing, as you can see, I zoomed in on the one weird looking part. When I was zoomed out, I didn't realize this was actually connected, but it is. So we are good to go there. Kind of zoom in and do the same thing with everything else. See here, we're getting close, but again, it's not touching. So we can leave it exactly where it's at. And here's an example of one that's a little too close. So you can see how the pink is actually welding to itself. So the way that I do this is if you just hover over the inline, the black part of it, and hold Control, click Control 4 times, click your mouse 4 times while holding Control, it'll just select that one letter. And if you hold Shift and hit the left arrow, it'll jump it over kind of a big step. If you just hit the arrows alone, it does little steps, which sometimes can take a little longer. So if you just hold Shift while you hit the left arrow, all you got to do is that one jump, and we're good to go there. Like I said, it's close, but they're not touching, so we are good to go. All right, so that is taken care of. You can clear this outline. One thing I'll check is just the width of this bar, since it looks a little thinner than the rest of it. And again, if you just hold Control and double click, it'll just select that piece. That works while you're compounded. You can always hit Control J to uncompound and just drag over it. That works as well. I like to do the Control and just double click so I do not have to uncompound. If you come over here in your Design Central box, we got 1.319, which will be just fine, especially because it does not say it is a non-lit reverse, so it doesn't even get any power holes, which is the bigger holes that would prevent us from making something real. We can start up by doing our inline to make the returns. Again, it's going to be 0.04, and that is because our returns material is 040 thickness. If it was 063, then we'd make the inline 0.063. 0.04, right click, separate the outline, pull that away, and get rid of the original. Zero your artwork out, ungroup twice, uncompound twice, and hit our start endpoints tool. And again, with reverses, they use points, corners, and sharp points to do their start endpoints, unless it's an O or an S or something that does not have any corners. So I'm just going to zoom in and make sure something like this, these kind of logos that are real kind of funky, you want to be careful with. Make sure you zoom in quite a bit on. When you see, kind of how you can see when I'm zoomed out, you can see a bunch of the nodes that are bunched together. You just want to zoom in real quick and check it out and make sure there's nothing real janky that the machine can't do, which something like this, it's so small, that little bend right here, it's just going to skip over it, or it's going to act like it's a double point, and it's just going to make the machine freak out. So all I did there is I took my corner tool and just clicked here and kind of dragged over and made it one nice smooth corner. Gonna do the same here. As you can see, it's not a real smooth transition coming out of this segment. So I'm just gonna make that corner and make it nice and smooth. And this tool right here is your rounding tool. If you see something, again, just not real smooth, you just wanna click and drag and just keep it as close to the integrity of the art as you can. I'm just gonna kind of go through the whole segment of this logo. This stuff looks fine. That's a nice smooth transition, so good to go. That's a little awkward, so I'll just kind of round that off a little. This one, you can see it's like a straight segment. I just want to kind of smooth that out to make it a nice smooth corner. Just helps the machine bend it correctly. There's a nice straight line here. That's a nice corner, so we're good there. These come to a point just fine, which again, in reverses, we do not have to do any shadow correcting. So this is perfectly fine. Now, if it was a frontlet, you would definitely want to make sure that you do a shadow correct. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, so it's a reverse sign. So if it would be a front lit, so we would be, you can say, making round all these sharp edges.
That is exactly correct. Anything like this, when it's front lit, you definitely want to just round it off, basically something like that. Or like when we were doing yesterday. If you use this tool, you go through and like select every single one that is like that, and you just want to round it off with this rounding tool. You can see how it puts these little circles in there.
Yeah.
And you can change it to the 0.1875, like I was saying. The 0.1875, the reason for that is because our mill bit on the routing machine is 3/16, which is 0.1875. So, but on reverses, you can skip that step.
Okay.
So it's only the frontlets and trimless as well. Trimless is also frontlit, it's just trimless. But that's the only other one that you have to do shadow correcting on. But reverse, you can totally skip that step, which is nice. So it's kind of opposite. When we're doing frontlit, you want to make sure they're all rounded. And as I'm going through here, you can see these are like on a square point instead of an actual point. You just want to make sure that they're pointed instead of squared or even rounded. Because again, they need these sharp points, or even these corners right here is where they'll actually start bending on the machine. And all that does is help them hide the seam much better, since they're basically welding it together. So again, here it looks it's kind of janky and not clean at all. I'm just going to go through on all these points and sharpen them up. Same here. I know it's in the art curvy like that, but the type of font it is, I just know that they do not want it to look like that. Maybe something like this. Stuff like this, like coming out of this line and into this weird bend. The SDS machines have a 1/2 inch bar on it that actually bends all of these bends. And for that to come out of that line like that, a 1/2 inch bar is not going to fit inside there. So it's basically going to skip that part of it. So you just want to make it a nice smooth transition. And here we got some squared off points rather than points. I'm just going to point those off. And the only thing I'm going to do with this K, since that now is so close together, by the time it gets to whoever's doing the backs and patterns, when they do their inline for backs, it's actually going to separate that inline. And I'll actually give you so it'll be like that. This would end up being the back. And since they're so close together, it separates it. So what I'm going to do is actually pull these down and separate that a little bit more. And now you can kind of see it looks funky from here to there. I'll actually just pull this in to even that out, make it look like how it was, to keep the integrity of the art. So now when Chris or whoever's doing backs and patterns does that, it keeps it all as one piece. Do this. This S, when you're zoomed out, it looked like it was all curves, but it does have these nice corners that they can use as their start endpoints. And same with the A, they can use these as long as it's not like a full-on curve like that. But if it's like that, then they're good to go to use it as is. Again, I'm just gonna make this, instead of making it look curvy and weird like it looks, it's gonna make it nice and straight. Check on this logo, make sure none of these curves are janky, nice and smooth. And here we got a letter that actually need me to put the start endpoint in, since it's got all curves. Just a black, right? Top, middle, and then left center. It's like these F letters are fine. They all have corners. I don't see any kind of weird artwork. You got another O with no corners. Anytime you kind of see some bunched up like that, just zoom in and double check there's not any kind of zigzag points or double points. That will save you a lot of time in the future. And that looks a little funky to me, so I'm just going to smooth that out. Yeah, that should be fine. And basically all I'm looking for is just stuff that does not look correct. Like this V. I'm gonna do the same thing like we just did on the A and the other Y, just to make it look nice and smooth. All right, so that is the cleanup. Next thing we're going to do is just copy over whatever duplicate letters there are. So for this set of letters, it looks like the only letters I have duplicate would be the E and the T's. So I'm going to take this E, copy it over by holding Control and just clicking and dragging over. I'll do the same thing with the T. Turn those green, and we'll do this set of letters. I know there's a few F's here, so we'll take the F first, bring it over to all the duplicates. I have one I, and we got another C. So this one has quite a few more than that other set of letters. We got some E's here. And I always get, if there's an insert in the letters I'm copying to, I will just get rid of that. And it helps me remember that I have to copy them over. There's no O's. Oh, I missed an E. No N's. We have an R over here in services. It looks like that will be all the duplicate letters. I'm just going to select all the ones I'm going to get rid of and turn them to green, and then we will center justify all of these. You just drag over both of them, or you can select this one first, hold shift and select that, and then hit Control-5. It does the same thing. Dragging over both seems to work a little bit faster. You just want to make sure that you touch the green first when you do that. Again, I'm just hitting Control-5, and then it'll put it right on top. So now we need to just get rid of the green. The letter D, go into your fill tab, select the green, hit OK, then hit delete. Then you can select all by hitting Control A, and then compound by hitting Control M. Go into fill mode by doing Control F. Make sure there's no extra layers. Looks like everything is good. And here is our returns file. And again, I'm just going to name these the first three letters, new. We will outline for our faces, which will be the 0.04, just like our inline that we did for returns. Click, right click, then separate the outline and get rid of the returns file. Zero out the art, do Control U and Control M to make sure you are compounded. I always hit Control F just to make sure there's no layers. It's just more of a habit. In the faces file as faces, and again we're going to check the shop drawing to make sure there's no kind of vinyl or digital print. Again, like I said, digital reverses rarely get digital print or vinyl. It's usually only if they have some kind of design on the face that we can do with paint, or if it's two-tone paint. So we do not have to do any kind of nesting to get the vinyl footage, since there is no vinyl. And on to the next step, which is cleaning the returns and the faces files for the machines. So we'll go back to AJ Sign Company right here. AJ Sign Company 114322. We'll start with the returns, just like we do on everything else. Control A to select all. You just want to hit your cleanup tool. Make sure on 0.01, hit OK. See how many segments it came down, which are brought down a lot. So we're probably going to do this one a few times at least, depending on how much it brings down here. So yeah, so you can see it's still brought down quite a bit. So I'm going to do one more, which is perfect. Only brought it down about 6. So we are good to output this now. Go ahead, James.
Yes, what's the ratio of doing this segments cleanup? Where is the, you can say, fine lines that we can go green signal?
Repeat that again.
Yeah, you have just done that the cleans 3 times. So what is the ratio where we have to say that now these segments are fine if they are remaining 3 or 4s?
So the biggest reason why we did have to do 3 is because this logo, as when we were going through and doing the cleanup in Flexi, it just had so many segments to it. So anytime you have letters or logos that have a bunch of curves, most of the time you're going to have to do at least 3 cleanups just to get, you just want to get rid of as many segments as you can. The reason is when they load it up into the machine, if there's too many segments, especially when they're really close together, it just kind of throws off the machine and makes it freak out.
There is no rigid number of, you can say, ratio that we need to clean up. It varies according to the artwork.
Yeah, like I was saying, when you hit the cleanup and you see how many segments come down, after that second one, if it only brings it down like a few or 5 even, then you're good to go. If it's still bringing it down like 100 or more, you just want to do it until it basically stops getting rid of segments.
Okay, okay, that's fine.
So most of the time, 95% of the time, you only have to do it twice. When it comes to signs like this that have a lot more curves, it's up to 3, sometimes 4 at the most, really. But you shouldn't really have to go past 4. Good question. All right, so I think I already output this. Nope, I did not. All right, so we'll save it right over the original file we just made. And again, in the letter bending folder as returns. Then we will do the same to the faces. So again, it's going to do the same thing. I'll show you. So first cleanup goes from 2504 to 927. So it cleaned up a lot, but there's still more that it could do. So we'll just kind of double check, see how much it brings it down here, which again, it's not over 100, but it's still quite a bit. I'd rather it get down to like 6 or something like that, which we got down to 1. So it went from 894 to 893. You're good to go. So export that right over the faces. And this one is complete. I'm gonna move on to the next one. Do you guys have any questions before I move on to the next one? Or, you know, what I'm actually gonna do is move on to this trimless since we got 15 minutes. All right, so we'll start this clay terrace trimless. Again, just like reverse is all green, trimless is always gonna be blue, and it's gonna be the second category on the week under reverse. And that kind of shows everybody in the shop what's reverse, what's trimless. So just like anything else, we're gonna start at the very first one, hit that in process, and open the shop drawing. All right, we will just go over the shop drawing, make sure everything's set up. We got 1/4 inch 2447. What I'm going to do, since it has this invalid thing popping up, it's going to type 2447 just so it actually pops up the 1/4 inch 2447, which also gets rid of that invalid little 3. Looks like they want white. And same thing, I'm just going to hit W so it pulls up the white. That's 3.5. And it's just a little easier to read for the shop when there's not all these. Like when it's here, it's fine. I try to get rid of as much of them as possible. All right, so we will set up the art. We got Lewis sign hexes, Flexi, go into Lewis signs. I'm going to find the DSW number 114331. I'm going to folder 1 so we can get our artwork. There's 6 pages. So what I'm going to do here, instead of going through every page in Flexi, is actually open the PDF through here. Who is this again? Lewis. And job number 114331. Open that same file. And this way I can figure out exactly what page I need when I import it into Flexi. Looks like it's going to be page 2. Yeah, so this is the art I want right here. So that is on page 2. So I'm gonna go back into Flexi, re-import that artwork, and instead of importing all 6 pages, I will just import page 2. And it just kind of helps with speed in Flexi. Bring in all those pages, it's gonna get real stuttery. Just enlarge that a little bit, ungroup all, and since it looks funny right now because I'm in wireframe mode. If you hit Control F, now it looks like how it should, like it did in the PDF. So same thing, I'm just going to get rid of everything that I do not need. All I want are the clay terrace letters. And one trick here, instead of me going through and deleting all these bricks one by one, as you can see, since they're not grouped or anything like that, you just hit the letter D, hit fill, and find white, which is what the letters are. Now that we have those selected, if you just hold shift and drag over everything, it'll select all that stuff we don't need. Hit delete. It looks like it disappeared, but it really didn't. It's just all white. And then I'm just going to go back in and see what the art said for the length. 216 by 132. Hit Control A, change this to 216. Hold on real quick. I think that's just typed in there wrong. There's no way that the height of this is 132 inches. Let me just double check the art real quick. Right now I'm just putting a stroke on it. Reason is remember how it looked like it disappeared. Now that I have the stroke, you can see it just fine. This is really the only time that you want strokes on your OG art is when everything is just straight up white. If I just leave it without a stroke, even when I paste it into the shop drawing, all the shop would see is the dimensions. They wouldn't even see what it looks like. That's the reason for the stroke. But let me check out this art real quick to see where they got the. Okay, so I can already tell whoever typed that in got the 132 from right here, which is measuring the whole monument basically, which we're not making. All we're making is the clay terrace part. So that also means the measurement that I actually want is this one right here. As you can see, it's measuring from the end of the E here to the end of the C. So we got 15 and a half, 15 by 5.5. So I'm just going to do the math real quick. 15 times 12 equals plus 5.5. So that is the actual length that I want. And the height of each letter should be 17 and a quarter. And that's actually the flat letters. The C's, and looks like it's just the C. Since they're curved, will be a little bit bigger. I'll show you that as well. Come on. Paste in that size, 185 and a half. And again, you can see I said, what was it, 17 and a half for the letters? 17 and a quarter. So right now it's measuring the whole thing. So it's actually showing a little higher than 17 and a quarter. And that's because of the curved letter. Like over the C, it's actually under that. And that's just because there's no curve. So since we are under a 1/4 inch difference of height, we are good to go on the length and height. We'll get the overall dimensions. Then I will get the overall dimension of one flat letter or quality control, so they can make sure they have the correct sign once it comes down the line before they put it in the crate. Save this into manufacturing art as a Flexi 10 file. I'm just going to name it the first 3 letters, CLA OG. And we will copy this and put it into the shop drawing. Now I can get rid of this art. The shop drawing, Control V to paste. Hit your 3 dots. Put image and select itself. Do the same thing in the ship window. These are basically done like frontlets. There's a few different steps when I get to making the faces and some of the inlines. So we'll go over all that right now. The first thing we're going to do, just like every other job that I've done so far, is check to make sure that the letters are not too close together by outlining them by 0.125. Zoom in, make sure nothing is too close, just like we did on every job. This is a nice clean set of letters, so it's real easy to see that there's nothing touching. Just like frontlets, not like reverse, but frontlets, we do want to do a shadow correction on any of these sharp points. Come in using your selected point tool, so you can select all the nodes together. And if you just hold shift, so select your first one, then if you want to select the second one, just hold shift while you're doing it, so that way all of them stay selected together. Do it to this R as well. I won't do it to this R because I'm going to end up copying it over. And same with the A, since we already have an A set up. Next thing, we're going to select our round corner tool, change this to selected, and do 0.1875. And again, the reasoning behind that is our end mill bits on the router tables are 3/16. For trimless, instead of the normal frontlet inline of 0.1 to get our returns, we actually need to do 0.06. And this will be the same on all trimless. So do your 0.06, separate your outline, pull that away, and you can get rid of the original art. Zero this out by doing Control 2 and Control 4. Do Control U a couple times and Control J a couple times, which is ungroup and uncompound, which allows us to set the start endpoints. And just like frontlet, we do have to set the start endpoints top, middle, just like we did on the frontlet sides. A inserts always do bottom, middle. And letters like this, you want to try to keep the seam on the left. That's just more of a standard internal that our shop is used to. Same thing here. They still have to clinch the seam on the returns. So you kind of want to give them room to put their seam tool in the letter. And if there's not a spot on this A, they'll definitely have room there. But sometimes there's like an O or like this C. They do have ways of getting it done. It's a little bit more tough. Oh, I didn't even have to do that E because we already have an E there. All right, so all the start endpoints are set. Now I just got to copy over duplicate letters. Just drag over, hold Control till your little plus sign pops up. Click and drag over. Now we just need to do the E and the R and the A. Again, if there's an insert on the one you're going to copy over to, just get rid of that insert. Same with the A. Turn the leaves green and just click and drag over both, starting from the top, and do Control 5. Just want to hit the letter D, so we can select our fill tab, select the green, and delete. And do Control A, and then Control M to compound, hit Control F to make sure you don't have any layers, and hit Control F to go back into wireframe mode, and this is going to be the returns file. CLA. All right, next thing, now we're going to start doing the faces. So So we are going to do the same outline that we did for the inline for the returns, 0.06. You want to separate the outline, pull that away, and get rid of the returns. Zero these out. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, in the previous job, what we did for the returns and faces were 0.04.
Yeah, which that was for a reverse sign. Remember, the reason why we did the 0.04 is because the returns material is 040 material. On reverses, if it's 063 for the returns, then your inline for returns and whatnot are 063. But most of the time, it's going to always be 0.04 because we basically only use 040 for reverse jobs unless it's absolutely necessary from the customer.
Okay, so it doesn't have to do with the trim cap and trim that.
Correct. No.
Okay.
All right, so here we got what would normally be our faces file if it was a regular front lip, but since it's trimless, there's a few extra steps that we have to do to make sure when they get on the router table, they are cut correctly. So they leave a little hat on the edge of the face. First thing I'm going to do is we need to make an inline 0.1. What I'm making right now is what's called the island cut. And as we go, I'll show you what this means. So once we get that inline of 0.1, you want to separate. Then we're going to outline that same segment that we just inlined from, 0.125. You want to separate that outline. The island cut will pertain of this inline that we did, which was 0.1, and the outline. So you just want to select those both. Everything's already compounded together. So you just want to export this, and we're going to name it island cut in the faces file. So we can delete that guy. This one, we're going to actually output and name it outcut. And so what it's going to do when it hits the routing table is Jen's going to take the island cut, set her toolpath on that, then she'll bring in the outcut, set her toolpath on that. What the island cut does is basically it doesn't cut all the way through the acrylic. It'll cut basically just about halfway through it, which ends up giving us the hat. And then the outcut goes through and cuts the letter out of the acrylic completely and leaves the hat on the edge of the face.
So that the faces are well fitted in that.
So they end up fitting right inside the return, but then there's a little, I think I have one in here. Hold on real quick, I'll show you. Okay, so see on this edge right here, can you guys see that? That's the hat.
Yeah.
It's sitting on top of the edge of the return. And I can't take it.
Stop presenting just for a minute so that
This one's actually glued in, so I can't take out so you can see what the hat looks like on the face itself. But that's what it ends up looking like. This stays on the outside, and then the rest of the face actually goes inside the return. And then that's how they glue it or screw it, depending on the type of trimless job it is.
So the outline is referred to the head.
The island cut, it'll cut first. Which, like I said, it'll only cut about halfway through the acrylic.
Yeah.
And then when they do the outcut, all the outcut means is it goes through and cuts the letter out of the sheet itself. So they can,
it will create a head.
yeah, it creates that. Yes.
Okay.
All right, and then I will just also name this my faces file, and that's more just for internal use. Like for me, if I have to go and make sure that if they say like something's not fitting correctly, I can go back and make sure I actually did the initial part of it correct. The face file isn't for anybody else but us in here when it comes to trimless only. Again, after that is your returns. That's the faces, the island cut, the outcut. If there was vinyl, which there is not on this one, we would do our nesting. We would have taken this, broken it apart and done the auto nest so we could get our footage of vinyl, but there is no vinyl. So that part of it is done. And from here on out, the cleanup is exactly the same as everything else. Just want to go into the company folder, Lewis sign. And bring in our returns file, and it's gonna be the same exact cleanup. Nothing changes here. Just hit OK. Check your segments. This one you can already tell it's only gonna have to be done twice, and look perfect. It didn't even bring it down once, so we can right away export this over our returns right here, and then also into the letter bending folder as returns. And I just want to do the same thing. We do not have to clean the file that I named faces because once again, that's not going to be used anywhere else besides me. We just want to clean the island cut and the outcut. And I'm just going to do that one more time just to be safe. It was only like a 5. There we go. So brought it down just a few more. The only reason why we did do it an extra one is because it has those 2 lines instead of the 1 line like the returns file had. Now we'll do it to the outcut, which the outcut, my assumption is we will only have to do the cleanup twice because there's just that 1 line. So 265 to 142, do it one more time. 142 to 140. So we'll stop there and export over the outcut.
Yeah, let me check.
All right, and that is it for
Okay, I got you.
Trimless. Come back to here, insert complete. There was no vinyl finish, so just do
Got
0.
it. It's good.
And that one's ready. So if you guys got any other questions? We all good for now? Or at least try to go over a few things that I have not shown you yet. I'm going to do a push through first. And then I'm going to try to find a raceway job where I have to add bridges to like an I dot or a letter that's not actually hitting the raceway. So first I'm going to start out with the push through. It is some few extra weird steps, but they're really not too bad to do, at least on my end. And you can kind of see, because I know Jen has gone over a couple push through routing files with you. So this might show you a little bit more of what goes into it. So just like everything else, go to your tracker, step 1, step 2, mark your column in process in the art adjust column, open up your shop drawing. And I already added the art in here. So let's just go over all the specs. Got faces, which that is for the push through part. When it is a push through, it's built in the reverse department, but built as a wireway, which Chris is actually going to go over with you today so you can see how that's done. But I do have to add the material for the aluminum part of it that the push through pushes through. So I'm just going to put entire sign. It's going to be 090. You have to use 090 because they use some welding pads on the back of the face to actually hold the push through into the face. If you do anything under 090, you see like little dimples in the face just because the aluminum is too thin for the welds. Here, after this, I'll actually go out and see if I could find one that shows that. The vinyl, that's going to be for the push through part, which is going to be these gold letters, and I have it as full cover. It looks like it should be per art, but once again, it's the push through, so those letters are actually the acrylic that's coming through, and they'll full cover them just like they would a normal face. And that's maybe one thing I could take a video of out in vinyl to show you guys how that's done as well. And for backs, we got 063 mill finish. Most reverse push throughs, about 99% of them are not backlit. They're just lit out of the push through port. And we got 2-inch returns for the returns material, and it's mill finish, which means it should be getting painted. Yes, and it's getting painted black. All right, so we're all good on the shop drawing. I'm gonna go to Flexi, go in the artwork, fast line champagne. Right click import. Go back into production folders, fast signs. And you're gonna go to C and then champagne. And then it's 114, 314, bring in the OG. I had already created this morning from folder 1. So first thing we got to do is get our outline of just the reverse part of it, which is going to end up being the wire width. The letters actually do not get bent on the machine. They're just cut on the router table, also cut out of the face, the aluminum face on the router table as well, which you've seen Jen do. First thing, almost basically like a reverse, we're going to inline to get the return file. And that's also going to be 0.04 since they're using 040 material for the returns. Click separate. You can pull that away and get rid of the original art, zero that out. And what's really cool about this is that's already our returns file because it's the returns will be bent basically like a reverse. They're going to use one of these corners for the seam, the start end point. So I can immediately export this as our returns file into our department. I'm just going to name it logo. Then we will outline to get the outline of our face. Just keep it at 0.04. Separate your outline and get rid of returns file. So this is just the outline of the face. Now we got to actually cut out the letters for the push through. So I'll bring in the original art. Get rid of the measurements. And then here I just want to select the gold portion. So I'll hit D and then fill, select that 141 gold nugget. Okay, and I'll compound it. And then I will hold shift and drag over the rest of it. So I'm just going to line up my face to this face in the OG art. So I'm going to change that to green. Hold on, one thing. That's all grouped together. All right, hit D again, fill. and gold. Compound that together, then hold shift and drag over. So you select everything that you're going to end up getting rid of. Turn it to green, kind of like duplicate letters. Line those on top of each other. We'll get rid of the green. And the next thing we're going to do is cut these letters out of this face. So all you gotta do is select everything. And over here, we got our cutout tool. Just hit cutout, cuts everything out. You're gonna right click and separate. And then make sure you hit Control M immediately after you separate. So that way you don't lose anything. And just zero it out. Control 2, Control 4. And this is gonna be our face for the reverse push through part of it. Now we're gonna create the push through. So we're gonna uncompound everything. And I'm going to inline this by at least an inch. Reason why is when they're building the push through, they have clips around the edges to hold to the back and the face. So when they put the push through in, they need that extra space, and the clips are about a ½ inch. So you want to make sure that the push through, the acrylic push through part of it, is going to clear those clips. That could be another thing that I could go grab and show you on our next training.
This was outlined, not inline.
No, I inlined it. That's this part right here. Here, I'll do it again for you.
Okay.
So that's the original face right there. And oh, hey, you're right. Good job. Thank you. Inline. Separate. All right, so now we can get rid of that original part of it. And also with push throughs, when they're trying to fit it through the aluminum face, it's very hard when you have everything as one push through. So we're actually going to split this down the middle right here. So to do that, I'm actually going to, instead of using my cleaver tool, just going to kind of draw up a little rectangle over that. Just kind of make it even as possible. Make sure it's to the front of all the arcs. So hit shift and page up. And if you have my little rectangle here, select the face together and just hit cut out. It'll separate those two. Back into wireframe mode. So this is basically going to be one of the top push through and then the bottom push through.
Can we also use the cleaver tool?
You can, you just want to make sure there's a little space in between. So you could like cut it twice if you wanted to. You'll kind of go through and do that too.
Okay.
So you could take your cleaver tool and you can just go that. The only reason why I did the little cutout thing, because it kind of eliminates just one of those steps of cutting it. However you want to do it, as long as you get to that same. This is basically a push through. Now we just got to set it up for Jen to put it in the end route. Go ahead, James.
Why we separated this into two parts? Why we're gonna work with the found one?
Because when they're trying to take, if this was one whole piece, it's really hard for them to just match the face when they're pushing it through the aluminum. Like if there's just a little bit that's kind of cut wrong, or if it maybe moved a tiny bit, then the rest of it won't fit through the push through. It's really hard to explain without showing you. So I'm going to have to, like I said, find one out in the shop. So when we do our next training, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. When they're separated like that, it's a little bit easier just to get it in through the aluminum face.
And it varies on every push through.
Yeah, there's some, like this one's kind of a larger push through. If it was like a smaller box, like maybe like 24 by 12 or something, you could leave everything together. It's just because it's this one's bigger is the reason why I'm separating it. Just kind of helps the shop to get it through a little bit easier.
Okay, all right.
All right, so like I said, now we're going to set up the files for the router. So I'm going to actually take these boxes, going to outline them by 0.125, similar to the Trimless files that I make. And then what we need to do now is make some stud mount holes. So that way, when they put the push through in, they'll put welding pads on the second surface of the face that actually hold the push through in. So it's nice and sturdy, so it doesn't fall out of the logo. Those hole sizes are 0.275. And I'll actually make them blue, which you'll find out why here in a second. So you kind of just want to put holes wherever, just like you're hanging a picture, basically. Just so it'll hold it in nice and tight. You don't have to go crazy with it and make it look like Swiss cheese. Okay, so those are all the stud mount holes. And next thing, I'm going to turn this inline that I have here to blue as well, just like the holes, which is going to end up being our out cut. Just like when we do the trimless, you have an island cut and an out cut. This one is similar to an island cut, but we call it a hatch cut when it comes to push through. So the hatch cut is going to be all my pink, the fuchsia. So I'm going to hit D, hit control, or hit fill, and then select fuchsia. And we're going to export that in the same folder right here, faces folder, and name it PT for push through, and then hatch cut. Delete that out. Now this is going to be our out cut. So that this is where it actually, on the router table, it'll do that hatch cut first. kind of like where it doesn't cut all the way through. It just shaves out everything that it does not need and leaves the letters for the push through. And then it'll come around and do the outcut to actually cut it out of the table and drill those holes out so they can get their studs in there. And that's it to make the push through file. Then we just got to do the same cleanup like we do with everything else in en route. Back to here, make sure we're in the same job. Fast sign Champagne. And bring in the returns file. Clean that up. Squares and rectangles like this, they're straight lines, there's no curves. So really the only points you should have are the 4 corners. So if I hit OK here, it's going to say from 5 to 4. There was probably one here in the middle that Flexi added automatically. So since it only brought it down 1, that's the only cleanup we have to do. Save it right over that file. And also, again, save it in the letter bending folder as returns. And we will clean up the push through, hatch cut, and the outcut, which is basically the faces file. So we'll do the outcut first. Same thing. Since there are some holes inside those rectangles, we'll clean it up 2 times. There you go. See, it didn't bring it down at all after that second one, so we're good to output. Right over the outcut file. And same thing for the PT hatch fill. Same thing. Do 1 cleanup. Brought it down quite a bit there, so we'll check how much it does on the second one. It only brought it down about 5, so we are good to output that as well. Yeah, and that's a push through. They're really not too crazy. At first, they seem like there's a lot. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. What are the depth of the, you can say, returns of these letters when these are pushed through the back of it?
The depth of returns, it's 2 inches. Depth of the push through is only a 1/2 inch, and it actually pushes through the face of that reverse logo, basically.
You were telling me the depth of that letters that need to be pushed through the face.
Yes, once it gets pushed through, it'll be basically a 1/2 inch minus that 0.090 of the face. So it'll be just under a 1/2 inch that's actually showing through the face of the reverse of the push through, which ends up looking really cool, especially when you have vinyl on the face. You got the gold shining out the face, and then around the edges is like kind of a halo lit that looks pretty cool.
What will LED pattern look like?
Basically the same as if it was just a regular logo box. This is going to be a grid. I would show you more of that if I had a LED Wizard, but when Chris comes through, he's actually going to go through this one with you guys as well. He can show you more of what the LED will look like. In this particular case, it's going to end up just being a grid, just like a normal logo. Like if the push through portion was just like in the middle right here, then the LED layout would just literally be just behind the push through part of it, because the rest of it, it's a waste if you try to put it across the whole thing. If it was backlit, he would do it like if it was in the center, just in the center, then he would do a perimeter, which he can go over that with you as well. Anything else on push through right now? All right, so now I'm going to go back to the tracker, complete this out. Oh, I guess one thing I did not do, because I wasn't thinking, I need to get the vinyl footage, which this is going to be, I don't have to do any nesting really, because as you saw, the push throughs are one piece together. They're separated now, but it's going to be 92 inches in length that they need for vinyl. So it's going to be 8 feet is all they will need to complete this job. So come back here, put my 8 feet. Now I'm just going to search for a job that is raceways that require a bridge. So give me 1 second to find that. Perfect. I'll do this Ziggy's right here. All right, so you can see the art here. You got your logo, you got this logo, which are both on their own raceways. And then you got the letters that are on a raceway as well. And as you can see, you got your I dots and the apostrophe that are not actually hitting the raceway. They're just basically floating in the air right now. And that's where we will require bridges. So I will go over all that with you right now. So since I've already done this, the tracker's already marked. I've already done the digital prints. So I'll just go over the basic part of it with you. So we got Colorado letters. Gonna go back into Flexi. Again, there's a lot of sign companies that start with the name Colorado. So you got to go to the first folder, Colorado, and then go on to the subfolder letters and get your job number 114316. And I've already gotten to here. I'll just do this from scratch, basically. Get a folder. Okay, so we'll bring in the OG. We're going to get rid of everything we don't need. So I'm going to select everything that I do need. Okay, so that's stuff I do need. So now I'm going to hold shift, drag over so I can select everything I do not need. You can see how the Ziggy's letters actually look like they're still selected. They are, and that's because there's a layer behind it. That's kind of the reason why I selected them all individually instead of just dragging over it. So now all the layers that I don't need are gone. This I'm going to uncompound because it's not a ring like that. It's going to be one solid logo. And we'll delete that inside part, select everything, and compound it. Turns it all to one color when you do that. I'll just change it to my black. Now we're good to do the first step after all that is checking the trim cap to make sure the letters are not too close together. Outline everything by 0.125. Just kind of zoom in a little more so you can see a bit better. Make sure nothing is too close, which we are good to go here. Now step 2 would be to do your shadow correction. On Ziggy's, the only part that needs a shadow correction is this part of the Z. If that's already rounded and there's nothing else that has a sharp point like that. So we'll just select that one, select your round corner tool and make sure you're on selected over here and do 0.875. So now we are ready to inline to make our returns file. So we're going to inline by 0.1. This is a standard frontlet. It is on a Raceway, but it's still designed the same way. Once you got that set, separate outline, pull this away and delete your original. You can ungroup and then uncompound, turn it to black, and then hit your start endpoint tool. I'm just going to do top middle. And once again, I will not do it in duplicate letters just to save me a couple seconds here and there. Inserts on O's are typically left center. So now for these letters, you can see this little bend, which is way less than a ½ inch, which means our machines won't actually bend that. I will show you an example of how much smaller it is. So all I did here is make a square that's basically just barely over a ½ inch. And you can see that that bend is definitely under a ½ inch. So we've actually gotten approval from Colorado Letters to just basically eliminate that little bend. So what I do here is grab my corner tool and I just click here and then drag until I get rid of it. All you got to do is hit enter once you do that, and I'll do it again. So you just drag, and once you end on the next segment, just hit enter, and it'll get rid of it. And the cool thing is when you do that with the corner tool, wherever you end, it puts the start endpoint there for you, which is exactly where I want it. And that's kind of why I stopped where I did. So I won't do this E, I won't do that F because they're duplicates. Do the center on this logo. Now I'll copy over duplicate letters. Turn all the ones green that I'm going to get rid of. And then center justify, just click and drag over, Control 5, Control 5. So on this one, as you see, when I did Control 5, it kind of offset it because of that little piece that's gone. So when you do Control 5, after that, if you hit Control 6, puts it right where it needs to be. Control 6 just right justifies it. So now we can hit our letter D, select your fill tab, and check the green, and then just hit delete. So now here we can do Control A to select all, then compound using Control M, and then I'll hit Control F a few times just to make sure there's no extra layers, and export this. This is our kind of original returns file without the bridges, because when I make the faces file, you don't want to outline after you make the bridges. You want to outline your faces before the bridges are made. The mock files, I'm going to save this as Zig. Now I'll go do the normal step, which would be making the faces. You're going to outline by 0.1. Drag that away, ungroup, and then compound. And then here we're going to uncompound. And this is where we're going to create our bridges from this part of the letter to the I dot. And same with from the S to the apostrophe. And all that does is it allows them to run the wiring from the I dot through the I here into the Raceway, or else these are just kind of floating in the air somewhere, and that does not work. Not on this planet anyways. The width of the bridge kind of depends on the width of the letter. I just kind of make it look like look easy on the eyes. You don't want it too fat or too skinny. If it's too skinny, that can't even make the bridge basically. You got to make sure that LEDs will be able to run through that part of the return. So here it looks like 1 inch wide is going to be just fine. I will select the I dot and then my bridge and do Control 7, which just centers it in the middle. And then I'm actually going to copy this and turn it black. I don't like seeing that glue. All right, so we're going to copy this and come over to the S. I'm not going to do it to this eye because we're going to end up copying this over once I'm done creating the bridges. So for this distance right here is pretty small. You'll see what I'm about to do. I'm going to shrink this a little bit, double click so I can rotate it. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. And I just kind of try to keep it nice and centered just so it doesn't look messed up, basically. So I'll select both of these together. So now to actually combine the bridge to the letters, you're going to use your welds tool right here. You can see it made it one whole piece now. You just want to make sure you separate the welds. Next step, you have to reset your start endpoints just on those letters. So when you weld, it always puts it to a different spot. So same thing, top, middle. Then we will just drag this over to this eye and center justify. We'll just get rid of that original one. And now we have our bridges. Now I will actually show you from what I said, we don't want to outline to make our faces when the bridges are there. And I will show you why now. So if you do your face outline after making bridges, this is what it's going to look like in the face file. It'll actually have the bridge in it, which we do not want in the face file. We want to keep the faces separate, just like the original art. Once the sign gets mounted up on the wall, the bridges are typically painted the same color as the raceway, which is the same color as the wall that it's going on. So really, the bridges become invisible. So now we can export this as our return file. I name it returns, so that way the next person that's doing the backs and patterns knows that's the file that has the bridges, and that's the one that they need to use. So now we got our faces file here. Can export right away as our faces. So put it right in here. Then I'll go and do the cleanup. I'm not going to do the DP order. That's already done on this one. So come into end routes. And the cleanup is exactly the same as any other job. So color out letters. Put it right over the returns. All right, got our returns. We're going to clean up, do our first cleanup. Brings it down quite a bit, so we'll do one more. Only brought it down 2, so we're good to output now. Put it right over the returns file there. And then we'd also export. It would be into the letter bending folder as returns as well. So that part's clean, ready to go, and then we'll do the same to the faces. Sorry, I did that really fast. I'll go back and do that again. Got your segments here. I'll bring it in from scratch just to show you the segments that go down. Control A, cleanup tool. Went down quite a bit. We'll do it one more. And it's only bringing 3, so we're good to output. All right, and that is how you would create bridges on a raceway job with letters, eye dots, etc. that are not hitting the raceway. Any questions on that?
Yeah, what's the depth of the bridges? Like, are the 3D?
They end up, when they bend that letter with the bridge in it, it's the same depth as the return, but they actually cut it down halfway. So it's kind of hidden in a way. Again, I'll try to find a letter that has a bridge. So when we do our next training, I can kind of show you what it looks like. We don't have, hold on one second. Let me ask Chris. We have something with a bridge here. Chris is going to run out and try to find one that has a bridge on it real quick for me. Okay, so I think now what I'm going to do is try to find an FCO job and just kind of show you how we do the stud mounts for that. First off, if we're doing stud mounts in an FCO, which is flat cutouts, the acrylic has to at least be 1/2 inch. If it's 1/4 inch, we cannot do stud mounts because there's just not enough space in a 1/4 inch to put studs in, or else the letter will just break. So when it's 1/4 inch, it has to be glue mount. If it's 1/2 inch, they can do glue mount, but they can also do stud mount depending on what they're mounting it to. So let me just find an FCO job, or I'll just make one up real quick. Here's a job with a bridge. So it's basically what we just did. So you can see it's the same color as the return. It's one whole piece, but they actually go in and cut it down, and it looks like it's about 1/2 inch that they cut it down. Oh, it's hard for you to see. Let me change my thing real quick. Hold on. Okay, there you go. Now, as you can see, it's cut down right here, about 1/2 inch. So that's why it's kind of hidden. Once the faces get on there, they actually have a cap that they put on here that's the same color as this. And if it needs to be painted as the same color as the raceway, then they'll paint that cap whatever color the raceway is. It makes it invisible.
It becomes a part of the whole letter.
Yes, yeah, you can see it's all one piece. It's bent out of the machine. So when it first comes out, it's all the same height right here. And then they go in and you can see right here, they have that cut out. and same on that side. All right, so I'm going to show you a flat cutout real quick. I'm going to make one up my own. Make it 6 inches tall. Typically, flat cutout letters are real tiny letters that we can't run returns out of and light up and whatnot. And that's typically why customers go with flat cutouts. A lot of times, flat cutouts are also interior signs, but they could go outside as well. I'm going to break this apart. Okay, so let's say this is what they want going on their wall as a flat cutout. It's going to be 1/2 inch acrylic. And for these stud mounts, over here, got this FCO stud hole right here. This 0.15 is the correct size hole to get our studs in the back of the FCOs. So I'm just going to go through, and just like a regular flush mount job, you're just going to want to put holes in just like you're hanging a picture. And again, since these are so small and just acrylic, some letters do not need as many mount holes as you would like a normal flush mount job that's being lit. But you still want to make sure that it's going to be nice and sturdy when it gets mounted on the wall. Again, I won't do duplicate letters. I already got a U and a T. All right, so that's that part. We're going to uncompound these and copy over duplicates. Turn those green and then center justify. Since the crosshairs are kind of coming outside the letter, that's why I put it on there kind of funky. It's just kind of want to move it yourself and get it lined up. All right, now you want the letter D, so we can get rid of those green letters. And Control A, and then just ungroup everything. Hit the letter D because we want to make our FCO file that the nesting person would use to set up the router file. So I'm going to select the teal, which is the crosshairs, which you do not want in the routing file. Delete that, drag over everything, and this is going to be the FCO file that Jen would use to set up her router file. I'm just going to put it right up in this same folder. Normally, you would save this file in the faces folder as FCO. Let's say Control Z. They also need a pattern, just like a normal flush mount front lit job for any of our flush mounts. So I'm going to name it, I'll just give it a fake number, just name it FCO, put the company name, and then the date that it's due. So I'll rotate it to the left. And I just kind of make it close to the same height that this is. So I'm just going to do 10 here, put it right on this left side. That way, when they roll up the pattern at the end of it, the label will be showing on the paper roll, so it's easy to identify. I'll just name it pattern. And that's it for FCOs. You don't have to do any cleanup on FCOs at all because they don't run out of any of the letter bending machines or the trim cap machines or anything like that. It just gets cut on the table and then gets sent to assembly and put in the crate, basically. Any questions on that? Pretty simple, right?
All good. Yeah.
Yeah, flat cutouts are really fairly easy. The only time they get difficult is when it's like a weird font. For the most part, they're usually a good font. Some art does come through kind of crazy, but it's just a little extra time to clean up is all it is. All right, we got about 18 minutes. Let me try to find something else real quick. Give me 1 second. You guys good? Any other questions about anything right now? I do a blade sign, but we don't have any right now. Okay, yeah, we'll just do this trimless real quick. Okay, so we'll come back to the tracker. We'll mark this in process. We already got the shop drawing open. Just kind of go everything. Oh yeah, because it's trimless. All right, so we got a 1/4 inch trimless instead of 1/2 inch. ACM backs and standard white 3-inch returns, so 40. It's gonna change it to just go white 3.5. All right, so we will go create our art now. Go back to the company name, Warehouse 21. Folder 1, bring in the arts 26 by 6. Basically what it's at already. I'm gonna make it match that. So I'm gonna leave that at 5.4. If I change that to 6, it's gonna look kind of funky. It changes their art a little too much. So I'm gonna leave it just like that. Put on your dimensions, check mark, and you just want to select all and export this as your OG. Flexi 10, always for OG files. Copy this into the shop drawing. Put image in selected cell and do the same in the ship window. Right, now we will start creating our returns and our faces. Get rid of all for that. Ungroup all. And right, I'm just going to hit D because I'm pretty sure that black outline is another layer. So I'm going to select just the color that I need. Then I'm going to hold shift and drag over. And as you can see, there is a second layer. So right off the bat, I'm going to actually cut this out, which I'll use for later. Compound everything. Do Control 2, Control 4. So you can zero it out. Change it to black. And the first step is to make sure the letters are not too close together. So outline by 0.125. Zoom in nice and close since these are smaller letters, and it is very close, but it's not touching, so I will not move that at all. We are good to go. Next step is to do the shadow correcting, which is just going to be in the A. Select your round corner tool. Make sure you're on selected over here, and just change it to 0.1875. And since this is a trimless, now we're going to make our returns. Those are inlined by 0.06 from the original file. Once you got that, you're going to right click, separate your outline, pull that away and delete the original, zero that out, ungroup and uncompound, change it to black. And now we're going to set our start endpoints. We'll not do the H since it's a duplicate. I'm just going to copy this guy over, turn that to green, center justify, get rid of that green, select all, compound, hit Control F to make sure you don't have any extra layers. Just going to export this. This will be our returns file. JC. Now we will create our faces. So we're going to do our initial outline of 0.06, separate the outline, get rid of the returns file, zero that out, do Control U and Control M to ungroup and compound. Hit Control F again just to make sure there's no extra layers. Now we have to do our island cut and our out cut now. So to create that, the first step is to inline this by 0.1, separate the outline. Now you're going to outline this one 0.125. So that inline and the outline that I just created is going to be the island cut. So I will select those two, export, go into the faces folder, island cut, and get rid of that, and this will be the out cut. And I will also name this my faces file, which again is more internally for me, just to make sure I did everything correctly. So now we have that registration mark that I cut out. So right there, I just hit Control V because I still had it cut. And let's go back to the shop drawing. I don't know if there's even, they don't have vinyl set up for it, but it should. So I'm going to add that in there. And since you can see it's black over here, select the R symbol, 3630, 22 black, and per artwork. Going to end up being just a half of a foot that they'll need. It looks like it is 2 sets. And just the black. Drag this over to save it. That's going to end up being my vinyl file for the registration mark. Here I'm going to create the actual puck. So uncompound, you want to keep the outline and you just want to inline it a little bit just so when they lay this vinyl on top of it, there's just a tiny bit of bleed for them to just drop it on there real fast and they can trim it up and send it on down the line. So I will only inline it by 0.035. And as you can see, when you line them up on top of each other, that's the bleed that they'll end up having. This can be named puck in the faces file. And since we got 2 sets, you can see here 2 sets, I will just copy this up. So when they import, they don't have to do anything on vinyl. They can just import it, put their black vinyl on the plotter, and press send, and they're good to go. So I'll name this in the vinyl file. And you always want to save vinyl files as a Flexi 10. Just going to name it our vinyl. And as you can see, they're only just about 1 inch wide. So that's why I ended up putting a half foot, on the shop drawing to show how much material they need. All right, so that part's done. So we'll just go into the cleanup. Stem, right click, import, go to warehouse 21. 4380. Going to bring in the returns file first. Select all, and your cleanup tool. Do the first one, see how much comes down. There's a little bit that came down, so we'll do one more. Perfect, nothing came down, so we're good to output. Output right over the returns file and into letter bending as returned as well. And same for the faces. So we want to actually clean up the faces file because again, that's just internal. We'll clean the island cut and the out cut. We do not have to clean the puck because none of that, all that does is get cut on the router table. Again, I only clean the out cut and island cut just because we cleaned up the returns. So I want them to be cleaned up the same exact way. With some trimless, that's some really janky font. If you don't clean them up the same way, then they won't actually match up to each other. Island cut and do the out cut. 58. All right, and that is another trimless. So we only got the vinyl for the registration symbol, which is going to be 0.5. So once you hit complete over here, just make sure you put your point button, and that's complete. Any other questions right now? All right, well, that's all I have at the moment. Like I said, I'm going to try to find reverse push through to kind of show you a little bit more of what goes into that instead of just seeing it on the computer screen. And I also believe that when Jen does her training, she's going to show you the nesting of that push through that I just did. So what's up, James?
Yeah, I have a question, Josh, that why we need to create a separate file for the island cut and outline cut when we have already created faces file.
Like I said, the faces, which is the same as the outcut, I only save that for me, basically, just to make sure that I did my outlines and inlines correct to create the island cut and the outcut. Really, you do not have to save that faces file. You can just save the island cut and the outcut if you want to. That's just more for me.
So
Yeah,
when
what
it
if something-
goes for routing, so it will be a single file.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm saying that when it goes for routing on the machine, so it can use a single file as well.
Yes.
Mean that we can put island cut and outline cut in the faces file, so it will be one file including island cut, outline cut, and faces.
You want to keep the island cut and the outcut separate. Once she does the router files, she'll bring them in and they'll end up being one. She just has to set the toolpath separately.
Okay.
Cool. Good question. All right. Anything else right now?
No.
All right. Well, like I said, I'll try to find a push through for you guys, and I'll see you this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome. Yep. Have a
Thanks,
good one.
Josh. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you later.